Hello, Namaste, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Cricket for Us. And today, as you can see, I have one of the best cricket people on the face of YouTube. So close to Sky Sports Cricket. It's absolutely hilarious because I've been a fan of these guys for ages. And thank you, Kez, as always, for joining.
No
Kez from weCricket is here to discuss this historic series, 17 years in the making. How you doing, man?
I'm good. It was a good series, and I enjoyed it. And it was more about cricket, more than just about cricket, wasn't it? Really, with all the other stuff going on. And yeah, I was pumped. I just been speaking about it on another podcast. Actually, I was pumped. Every game that came around, I was like, right, I'm ready for this. I'm looking forward to it. Bit of a shame with the last game that it wasn't a bit closer, but yeah, it was really good all the way through.
Yeah, do you know what? There were so many matches that were so close, though. That's the funny thing, because England
can't really complain, really.
England should have won this series 6-1, and I'm going to preface that, and then we'll go deeper into this. But the way England played, they deserved to win it like 6-1 because of the way they went about their approach compared to the way Pakistan went about their approach, especially in those really close games. But yeah, definitely that final match was kind of a disappointment, and I hope
it was.
It doesn't sour anyone's taste of that entire series because it shouldn't have ended like that. Because it was 3-3, right? It was 3-all.
Like, they wanted a real
match.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, it was perfect preparation for the guy. I know it's going to be different conditions, but like pressure, everyone seemed to be like the players seemed to be really up for it, which obviously they should be. I mean, they're playing international cricket, but the fact that it was a 7-match series and everybody on Twitter was going, it's crap because it's 7 matches and no one's going to be interested in it. But that was completely opposite. And I know it was helped by the fact that it got close and it wasn't like if it was 5-1 on that 7th game, then everyone would have been a bit like, well, maybe this isn't quite as exciting. But the fact that it was 3-3 was perfect. It couldn't have gone any better really for both sides.
I want to ask you something about from an England perspective. How do you feel about England's preparation going towards the T20 World Cup? Because we got to say, no Butler, no Stokes, Bairstow's injured. Mark would play 2 games. Archer might not come back till next year. You know, Livingston, no Liam Livingston. So how do you feel about England in the T20 World Cup?
Yeah, there's a few players that, haven't played for a long time. I mean, Stokes is somebody that everyone will be saying, why is he in the team? Because he hasn't played T20 cricket for a long time. I think my stance on it would be that it's just Ben Stokes. I think he's a fantastic cricketer. I think he can kind of turn his... I might be proved wrong, but like my feelings right now are that he'll be able to turn his hand to pretty much any format, really. I think he's good enough to be able to do that. Whether he can do it in this tournament, I don't know. Whether he's going to have the preparation for it, I'm not sure. Livingston, again, like he's been injured, not ideal, but I think he's a quality player. People like Harry Brook had a fantastic series, and I'd be surprised if he's not in that team. And Butler, I mean, similar to Stokes, he's just that level of player that, when he's out for so long, I think he's going to be fit and ready to go in Australia when they land there and play in all the kind of preliminary games and stuff like that. I just think those guys that operate at that level are, they can just jump in and play at the highest level straight away. I'd be surprised. I mean, they're so used to jumping around these different leagues and that I think it'll be okay. But it could, and it, like you say, with Jofra, it's obviously a massive shame. I mean, we're not going to see him for a while, I don't think. But Mark Wood was very, very good. He bowled 8 overs, didn't he, in that series? But
took 6 wickets.
He was bowling absolutely rapid and he was taking wickets and yeah, hopefully he's fit and can play that whole tournament. But it's so difficult with those fast bowlers, like we've seen with Bumrah going down, with Shaheen being a bit, it's so difficult to manage these bowlers now because they play so much cricket.
100%. I think it's, and I'll be honest, I think it's too much cricket for their own sake. Like they need to realize this. Some sort of breathing room, because players like not just Bumrah, players like Shaheen Afridi, players, even Archer before he got injured, he was playing pretty much every single game for England. IPL, yeah, exactly. I just want to ask you a bit more about, this particular series. As you said, it meant a lot more. There was a lot more than just the cricket, but I want to talk about the cricket. So because it was so close, did you feel like a lot of things might have been brushed under the rug from both sides? Or do you think, as you mentioned, England's got a lot of players coming in, so England would go with more confidence? But from a Pakistani standpoint, do you think the lack of middle order exposure, the lack of 200 plus runs being scored off the bowling of Pakistan, you got to say that however much Pakistan puts onus on death bowling, 200-ish runs or 200 plus runs 3 times in the series they had to endure, right? So how do you see Pakistan after this particular series?
Well, I think they're so heavily reliant on those two at the top that it is. Again, I was just talking about it a second ago on another podcast. It's a bit ridiculous, really. Like they with the guys that come in afterwards, you know, 1 down with 4 overs to go or 5 overs to go. I'm not surprised they haven't got a brilliant record, because they've got to come in. And the thing is, sometimes they don't go for it. And I think the way I'd describe it is the fact that they kind of just keep the car in the same gear, like the guys that come in afterwards, and they kind of just keep bumbling along at like a 135 strike rate, when really we need someone to go in there, or Pakistan needs someone to go in there and just really get on with it and take the game into a bit of a frenzy, really, which didn't really happen. I mean, those two are so consistent, they're quality, and there was so much criticism before the series about their strike rates, and they did improve upon that, didn't they? Their strike rates are up in this series. They're nearly 140. I think Babar's is over 140.
Yeah,
and Rizwan's is like 138 or something. My phone's ringing. I'll ditch that. The issue is when they don't work, they're not a team. And I think England showed that they just had a bit of extra depth, a few extra players that can contribute. And Pakistan just didn't have that, did they? They were just so heavily reliant on those guys. I mean, Harris Ralph bowling 85-mile-an-hour off cutters helped quite a lot. I mean, they are absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, I mean, it's great to watch Babar and Rizwan go about it. But after that, I'm a bit like, one of those gets out or both of those get out, they're really, really struggling, like we saw in that last game.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. Players like Shan Masood, he scored 250s in the series, but because he wasn't going at 150 plus strike rate, no one's going to consider that.
But he's not. He's an opener, isn't he?
Exactly. So Pakistan needs to fit their players. They've got like 7 openers sitting in domestic cricket, but no middle order players at all.
And you can't do anything with that opening. You're not going to drop that opening partnership. You can't go, sorry. I know you average 50, Rizwan, but we're not going to pick you now. That ain't going to happen, is it? So, yeah, I don't know. Is there anybody else that they could bring in that middle order? I'm not that clued up on anybody else they could bring in. Is there anybody that they could go with?
There's a couple of players based on the national T20 that happened just recently. There was a player called Fazan Khan. He comes in the middle order, smashes at about 150, 160 strike rate. Saim Ayub, Saim Ayub, you might have heard of over the past year or so. Young lad, but he was striking 170 and averaging about 35, 36 in this year's tournament, the domestic tournament. There's a player called Tayyib Tahir. He's more of a top order batsman. Again, so there's too many in the top 3 that they can find. It's just everyone from 4 to 7, which is where I want to ask you, because as a neutral, from a Pakistani perspective, do you think Pakistan needs to experiment with players like Shadab Khan and Mohammad Nawaz coming in higher up?
Shadab, but what was wrong with him at the start of the series? Was he injured, or was he just not playing, or was he resting? Oh, he was injured. Okay, because I really like him. I think he's a quality player. And I've seen him in the PSL for Islamabad, just slapping it everywhere, scoring loads of runs at a really high strike rate as well. And I'm like, start of the series, I'm like, well, I didn't hear that he was injured, and I was a bit surprised that he wasn't playing. I assumed he was being rested, which obviously is probably a good thing with the amount of cricket they've got coming up. But yeah, surely they need to. I think they need to experiment. I think we've seen enough of these guys in the middle order in this series. We don't need to see any more of them. Blimey heck, they've been awful. So yeah, I'd get Shadab. In there somewhere. I don't know where. I don't know where he fits best, but I'd definitely be looking to experiment if I could. But it's so difficult because there's not enough time now.
Yeah,
they're done. I mean, they're going to have a few games, aren't they? But yeah.
What I'll say is, and sorry, I keep interrupting. It's just I think my internet's a bit wonky. I was just going to say about the Shadab Khan point. There's this tri-series coming up: Pakistan, New Zealand, Bangladesh for the next week. Again, too much cricket for these players, but fair enough. I think that's where Pakistan will be like, okay, let's experiment. I'm like, why not experiment at home? A series against England, the best T20 side in the world, right?
It was a good chance. Wasn't it? Yeah, I think you'd bang on, mate. It kind of blows me mind a little bit that they haven't been a bit more experimental. Like I think the criticism was there before as well. It's not like it's just happened in this series that these guys have been, not up at the sort of level that everyone would expect them to be at. So yeah, it's a shame, because if they could figure out that little area there, with maybe with Shadab or somebody else slotting in, Like, it could be really dangerous, because then those top two can kind of go, well, I can actually trust those middle order guys a bit more now, and I don't have to bat so conservatively. And obviously, it's a massive strength for those two to walk out and strike at, you know, what they do, and you know, the consistency. Like I said a second ago, it's ridiculous. Like, what does Rizwan's T20 average is over 50, isn't it? It's like 54 or something.
Yeah,
it's mad.
And he's scored so many runs as well. Like, if the best comparison I've got from a middle order perspective is, you go across the border, you go to India, you look at Surya Kumar Yadav. I don't know if you've
player,
what is he doing? How is he doing
best in the world at the moment? Yeah,
100%. And I know rankings say one thing, but the way that he's been playing T20 cricket,
it's nuts.
Like 170.
Well, he's the sort of guy that you kind of just want to turn the TV on and he's batting.
Yeah,
you just want to be like, well, if he's not batting, I'll watch something else, because he's just everything seems to be in the middle of the bat for him at the moment. I hope he carries it on through the World Cup, because that'll be so good to watch.
100%. I'm going to ask you one question about this series, and then I'm going to ask you some random questions. All right. So one question: if you had to pick a moment from this series, so there's a segment on the channel which is called Kamaal Ka Moment. Kamaal means awesome in Urdu, so Kamaal Ka Moment. If you had to pick one in this series.
No, my funny moment is the guy, you know, on the washing machine thing. I know this has got nothing to do with the cricket, but I don't care. But they hadn't figured out that the rowing machine thing wasn't particularly the best thing to use. And then they changed it to the cycling thing, which was a better option. Maybe they should have done that with Pakistan's middle order, realized they weren't very good, and then changed it. But honestly, my biggest highlight, obviously Wood was great, but Harry Brook.
Oh yeah,
Harry Brook. Just Harry Brook is my moment. I just love watching him bat. He's got so many options, and every time you kind of, as a bowler, I think you'd feel like, oh, I've got him now. I've got him. I bowled him this one. He doesn't seem to like it. I bowled him this one, and then all of a sudden he'll play a scoop, or he'll whack it over extra cover, or he'll just like find an area or an angle, and you're just like, wow, this kid just looks so good. But I think some of the innings he played, some of the shots he played, like 100%. Certainly the ones over the offside, and the ones just down the ground. I think there was one. It might have been the second game. I can't remember exactly when, but it's just like the punch. They were like proper cricket shots.
Yeah.
And he'd have to be my moment. I think he's just been so good.
I think for me, Harry Brook has been the new generation of England's approach. So if you go from like 2014, 15 onwards, since the Morgan generation, right?
Yeah.
These players, the new players that come in, I think Harry Brook's probably one of the youngest ones, and you got Sam Curran and stuff, but they play in the IPL a lot more. Harry Brook has played.
I think he'll get a gig soon.
Yeah. So he's one of the newer batch of players, and he's playing exactly how you'd expect someone from England to play. And what he's been doing, it's fantastic. Also, Ben Duckett, what has he been doing?
He just gets his broom out, doesn't he? He likes to sweep. He loves to sweep, and he does very well at it, and he's very good at it. Not sure how. I know he's not in the T20 World Cup squad, but I'm not sure how his game would look, you know, without, or in conditions that weren't going to be quite spin heavy. I don't know. I think he's still going to be a good player, and they're still going to be spin bowled. Every team's got spinners, haven't they? So it's not like he's just going to be completely lost on that. But maybe a bit of extra bounce might outdo him. I don't know. Maybe he's that good that he can adjust. But yeah, he was fantastic, scoring so quickly. And he doesn't hit many sixes, Duckett. He just hit so many fours, which shows just how accurate he is and how many different areas he can hit that sweep. Because most people, well, I know when I'm batting, I hit a sweep. Normally it's my pad. But when I'm playing a sweep, I've got one area really that it can go, whereas he can hit it pretty much anywhere, which is so good. But yeah, the last thing I'll say about Brook, coming in at number 5 in T20 cricket is not easy. Like, to have consistency and bat at number 5 is definitely not easy. And I think that's been the most impressive thing, to be able to come in and do it time and time again. It's been really good.
Totally. Again, I said I was going to end this, but Moeen Ali, just a point on Moeen Ali. Captaining England, batting, bowling. I know he didn't bowl much, but his bat, I think Pakistan only got him out once or twice in the series. Otherwise, he was just taking us apart. So how do you see his game? Because recently he's re-retired from Test cricket. Do you see him with a longer white ball career than he was?
I think so now. Yeah, and it's a shame with that. I was just speaking about it. It's the Test stuff is weird because I think he saw the stuff in the summer and the way England were playing with the Bazball stuff, and he was like, "Well, I quite like a bit of that," because that's how Moeen plays. When Moeen plays at his best, he plays in that style, and it works really well for him. And some of his best moments have been in that kind of Moeen ball type sort of situation. And it's going to be a bit of a headache for England, because I think if Moeen had said, yeah, I'd like to play in that test series, they'd 100% picked him and he'd have been playing in the first test, I think. In terms of T20 stuff, I'm pretty certain he's going to play. And I think England will probably go with 7 batters. Because I mean, Harry Brook will bat 5, Livingston will bat 6. You would think Moeen will bat 7, which is really low. And I mean, Moeen's done so well at the top of the order for CSK and for other T20 leagues, in the 100 and in the Blast and all these other, where he hasn't got the depth in players, so he can bat a bit higher. It's a shame, because he would, I think, well, they don't really get the best out of him, probably, do they? Because they've got so many other guys that can do things. And you can't drop Milan, can you? Like, he just, every time you think, well, is he playing that well?
Even in the last game.
Yeah, exactly. And then he does that, and you're like, well, I can't drop him now. And I think, again, he's another guy in Australia that'll do well, because he likes the ball, a bit of extra bounce, a bit of extra pace. I think he'll do really well. Moeen, you could argue it could be Moeen or Livingston, it could be Moeen or Stokes that might fit into that team, and you could go slightly differently if you wanted a few, extra bowling option or another bowling option. But then Moeen's a bowling option anyway. Well. So it is. He's a bit of a strange one, because he's had such a funny career. He's had so many great moments, and obviously some low ones, like everyone does. But I want to see him play, and I'd kind of like to see him higher up the order, because I think he can do some amazing things. But how you fit everybody in, you can't have everyone batting at 3, can you? So he's kind of got to stay down at 7 and maybe face 10 to 12 balls an innings, and try and work some magic. But
I wish Pakistan had that problem. It's exactly the problem.
It kind of is a bit of a different situation. Yeah,
100%. Thank you, Kez. As always, really appreciate the time, man. Genuinely.
No worries.
Right. Okay, that's the end. Thank you, Kez. Thank you,
no worries,
everyone watching. Please do like, share, and subscribe. I'm not going to ask you to watch weCricket, because you probably do already, but do check out.
It's overrated.
But it's not. It's fantastic. You just did a video with Imam Ul Haq, which I'm going to adapt the thumbnail for, by the way. But how was that? How was that experience?
It was amazing.
Looked amazing.
I mean, Imam is the nicest guy in the world, the sweetest guy. He gave us so much time. He gave us an hour and a half of his time. Wow. In the back, I think he had a game the next day. He was playing county championship for Somerset the next day. He gave us an hour and a half. The energy in the video is fantastic. He had a laugh with us as well. And to add on to it, he's quite good at cricket. And he showed that, it was a pleasure, an absolute pleasure to feed the bowling machine, and like I said to Dan earlier when we were doing our podcast, it's just the kind of the little nuggets that you get that everybody says when you play club cricket, amateur cricket, and they go, just watch the ball, and you go, right, lovely. And they go, don't try and use the power, and you go, right, lovely. And because it's Dave from down the club, you go, I don't need to listen to him. But when Imam says it, and then the 4th best ODI batter in the world goes, just use the timing, and you listen to it and you go, that might be quite a good idea. And then you use that, and it turns out to be quite a good idea. Yeah, he was phenomenal. What a player. And I'm gonna be looking at all the scorecards now. I'm an Imam fan now. For obvious reasons. But what a great guy.
Yeah, he's playing in the Qaid Trophy at the moment.
I saw he got 8 the other. He got out, didn't he? He got LBW. I saw the clip and I was like, oh no. Hopefully we haven't given him a curse or something.
No, man, you'll be fine. Right, thank you. I'm trying to end this in a really positive way, but it's been great. It's been great fun. And please do check out weCricket. Fantastic content everywhere. Golden Ducks podcast, about to hit 50K, I think, as well, or close enough. Yeah. You'll get there. You'll be fine. Right, thank you. And until next time, everyone, take care.